Floyd's sitting over there now. Let him sit there for a minute. You started to tell me about in the previous tape, which we just had to end, about meeting this lady who used to roll cigarettes for you. Well,
Yeah.
you're meeting her son. Why don't you continue telling Floyd that while I play with the video?
So, while I was talking to that man about his mother, his mother walks in on the street, and he said, "This is Shukri." So she said, "Who is that you're talking to?"
Good morning.
He said, "Mama, this is Badie Katen." When she heard the name, she grabbed me and she started to kiss me, and she said, "Don't you remember me? I bought you lots of apples so you can cut the tobacco ends."
Oh, yeah, she was paying you to do that to help her? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
She said, "Why can't you come?" I said, "I came to see my home." So
She lived in the neighborhood.
she was the next door neighbor.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
My uncle and father loaned them the money to buy the house.
Uh-huh.
And he told me, he thanked me for my uncle and my father loaning him the money to buy the house, and it wasn't much. It was only $50 worth of English money.
Uh-huh.
And he still lives in that house.
Yeah.
We lost the house, but he still has that house.
Yes, that's
His
the house
home,
I visited, and he was very nice to me when I went.
That's
to see
the
it.
house you went there.
Mm-hmm.
In what year?
74. 74, about 2 years after you were there.
Yeah. In 74, you went to Homs, and I gave you a card introducing you to my cousin Fahad, Katen, and to my cousin of my mother's side, Katie.
Yes, who we'll see later today.
Yeah. We will see her today in Carol's wedding party.
Yes.
And you stayed with her for almost 2-3 weeks, and she wanted you to stay there and teach in the International College in Beirut.
Yes.
Because she was the secretary of the International College, and you didn't accept.
Well, at some point in the future, I hope that I might be able to, when I finish my doctorate, to be able to go there. I want to ask you a question about Homs and Beirut and Damascus.
Yeah.
When you grew up there, Syria was all Turkey or Syria?
No,
what was
when
called?
I was born,
Yes.
Syria,
Mm-hmm.
Egypt,
Mm-hmm.
Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it wasn't Israel then.
Mm-hmm.
It was Palestine
Mm-hmm.
and Jordan. They all belonged to Turkey.
Turkey. Okay.
After the Second World War, it was after the Turks were beaten,
Yeah.
it was split.
Mm-hmm.
It was mandated part to France and part to England. French took Syria, England took Palestine and Jordan.
Yeah.
And England established the Jordan Kingdom.
Now it's after the First World War?
Second
Second.
World War.
But when you grew up in Homs, did you have much to do with Damascus or Beirut? Or?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
we had business connections, sure.
Mm-hmm.
When I started my grocery business after I came to America, most of the goods came from Damascus.
How would people travel from
By
Homs,
train.
From Homs to
From Homs to Damascus by train. And after a while they had the train going to Tripoli.
Which is in northern.
In the northern part of
on the coast.
Yeah.
So, Deb, what I'd like to hear a little bit, you just started to mention about starting a grocery store in the United States. Could you trace for us and tell us a little bit about the different types of businesses you had? Because, you know, entrepreneurism is something exciting today. So tell us a little bit about it.
I told you about the Hashim and Jackson from
Tell us
China.
about that one, right?
But
Not the
in
grocery store.
Egypt, my father was in Egypt, and he started to send me Arabic records, music records and singing records made in Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to sell them in New York.
He'd send them to you when you were in the States?
From Egypt to New York.
And where would you sell those?
In New York City and to all over America.
To people or
To people, no, they only were people from Syria and Lebanon. At that time there was no Lebanon.
Yeah.
It was part of Syria. I used to sell them to everyone that came into the store wanted to see Arabic music.
And what else were you selling in the store?
I was selling groceries and laces.
Uh-huh. Laces and groceries.
Groceries,
What a combination.
laces, yeah.
Was that an unusual combination?
Sure, because after the First World War, I couldn't buy groceries from Syria. I used to job groceries from America.
Uh-huh.
But I couldn't do well with the groceries, so I turned into laces.
Uh-huh.
And after, in 1922, I established the linen business.
Uh-huh.
There was also
Small.
there was also a time that I recall that you had a restaurant or worked in a restaurant.
Oh, yes.
Where you knew Khalil Gibran.
During the First World War, I established the Allied Restaurant on Rector and West Street.
Is that in Brooklyn or
It was in New York City.
New York City?
In New York City, and I stayed with it until I was drafted into the American Army. So I left the restaurant in the care of my cousin Saudi and my mother's cousin Saudi Gorab.
Mm-hmm.
But they were young, and all they amounted to them is to go drink and enjoy themselves. And when I came back, the restaurant was in debt.
Uh-huh.
So I paid the debts and I sold the restaurant.
How long were you in the Army?
I was in the Army for 7 months.
7 months?
And I didn't go overseas because they put me in the auxiliary officers training school. And before I got anywhere outside of being a private,
Yeah.
the war ended and they sent me home.
Oh, and you were happy.
And I was happy.
Yes.
A couple of questions. Floyd and I are going to switch seats. Floyd's
Yeah.
going to take over the camera a minute. You know, this tape is going to be saved for a long, 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 long time. And we'll be able to see it for years and years and years. What types of things have you learned in your life that you'd like to share with us that you think are important for us, your grandchildren, great-grandchildren to know about?
Well, they want to know. I want to tell them you can't get anywhere unless you work real hard. I was young. I came to America to make money. And thank God I was successful.
Yes, you were.
During the First World War, I was making money in my lace business and in the records and in the restaurant.
Yeah.
And I kept sending back to my father and my uncle $250 a month, all during the war, through the American mission. And that helped the family to stay alive.
Yeah.
Because they were my partners in business.
Yeah.
Because they were shipping me the goods to make money on.
That's right. So they were helping you to
Helping
make money
me
so you
to
could
start.
send it back.
No, they became my partners, and I was helping them during the war.
Okay. So work hard is a value, I guess you could say, that you think is important for us to know. What else? Tell us more about
What's
it.
important in my estimation is
Your
the
estimation.
family ties.
Okay. We were talking a lot about that yesterday, the fact that families are no longer tight-knit and such
The
strong.
family ties mean an awful lot. There is tragedies in families. There's good things in families. But when there is one that needs help, the family should be there to help. I hope I started a good example.
Yeah.
And things may go wrong, but don't be discouraged. I went broke twice.
You did?
Yes. After during the Depression, I lost everything I had, and I could not even pay for my lunch. And I had to depend on my friend, Adib Haddad, kept me going with groceries to feed my family for 9 months.
So after China being very, very successful, everything fell for
Everything
you.
went blue.
Okay.
I lost everything that I made during the China time. And I had to start all over again.
That must have been very discouraging for you to really have nothing and then to start. What
For-
made you start over? What gave you that push to start?
To start over, the need of money.
in need of money?
I had experience in the linen business, in the import business. So I went to my friends that I used to sell goods and they survived the depression.
Mm-hmm.
And I told them, I have no money. All I need samples from you. And I want them on consignment. I can't pay you for them.
So you
But
had no cash, but you found a way to get what you needed to
I
get
had
the cash.
the name. I had the people knew I was honest and they trusted me.
Okay.
So I went to a few of my friends and took samples amounting to about $100.
Mm-hmm.
They gave them to me on consignment. I borrowed a suitcase to take the samples in from Joe Cadre,
Mm-hmm.
and I went looking for an office. I went on the subway one time, and I met Vyas Masabny in the subway.
Mm-hmm.
He said, where you this is when we came to 28th Street, where my old office was. I closed it, and he said, well, that's your station. I said, no, I have no more station. I am out of there. He said, all right, come on and sit with me in 325th Avenue. So we went up into his building. He was on the third floor.
Yeah.
Coming out of the elevator, I saw a sign on one room for rent. So I kept it in mind, and I went to him inside in his office. We were talking. He said, what are you going to do? I said, well, I saw a little room here in the corner,
Yeah.
and it's for rent. You think I can rent it? He said, they'd be glad to. Nobody is renting today. So he called the superintendent that who was renting the building. He came up. I said, would you rent me that room in the corner?
Mhm.
He said, yes. I said, how much is it? He said, $30 a month. 325th Avenue on the
That's
third
amazing.
floor.
That's amazing.
I said, all right. I rented it.
And you had no money.
Listen. So I said, how many months you give me free? He said, we give you 3 months. I said, no, I want 6 months and it's mine. So we asked Masab and he said, well, it's empty here for a year. Why don't you give it to him and give him 6 months? He said, all right, we want 2 months
Deposit?
deposit. I said, Mr. Masabni will guarantee me for the $60 you want.
Uh-huh.
Mr. Masabni, is it okay with you? He said, yes. So I got the office.
Congratulations. That's great.
So I needed furniture.
Yes.
I needed a desk. I needed a table. I needed a chair for the customers to sit on. I needed a chair for my desk. And I went downstairs from the building. I wanted a telephone. I had only $7 in my pocket. Who I meet downstairs is my brother Nabi.
Mm-hmm.
I said, you got any money? He gives me $20.
Mm-hmm.
So I take it and I went to the telephone company. I said, I want a telephone in 325th Avenue, but I want it today.
Mm-hmm.
He said, yes. And they figured, I said, how much it cost me? It cost you $17. So I took $20, gave it to them, and they gave me $3. So I had $10 in my pocket, and the telephone was installed.
Mm-hmm.
I needed the table
Tables
and
and
the
chairs,
things,
everything.
you know. So I went to Broadway and 28th Street, around the corner from the office I rented, and they had second-hand furniture. I picked up furniture for about $130. They wanted cash. I had no cash. I said, you should give me 60 days to pay you. I said, I'll give you references.
Mm-hmm.
He said, who do you know? He said, I know Mike Maverick. I said, call him up and tell him Badie Katen wants credit for $130. Is he good for it? He called him, he said, give it to him and come I'll pay you for it.
Oh.
So everything was easy then.
Uh-huh.
I said, send it today. So he called his boys on hand trucks and they moved them the same day.
Fantastic. So
At that time, you know, I was married and I had your mother I had Joe and I had Floyd. He was young. He was born 1928, just before the Depression. So, and then Franklin was born. I had 4 children at that time.
Yeah.
So he brought in the furniture, and I called your grandmother. I said, come down and pick me up. Thank God we still had the car. So she came down, and she said, where? I said, in the new office. I'm in new business. So she came in, she saw the office, empty. I had a couple of packages. I put them there. I said, that's our line. It was on Friday. I said, Monday, you come and stay in the place.
She's going to work for you now.
She's going to help me. So she came in. I went on the road into New England. I had lots of friends. I came to New Haven. I had Pete Hamra. He bought $200. I said, give me the money. I want to buy the goods for you. He gave me the money. I went to Hikmat in Turkey. I sold him $300. He paid me the money.
Oh, you're doing well, huh?
Yeah. I go to Hartford, Connecticut. I sold some merchandise to a department store, to a small shop. I didn't ask for the money, and I went there from Hartford to Boston.
How did you travel in those days?
By car.
By car.
Oh,
You
yeah.
had your car? Your first car?
At that time, I wanted to travel by bus or train, but I had Teddy, Karen, my wife's nephew, that I raised, living with us.
Yeah.
And he had a car and he couldn't pay for the installment. So he said, take the car and pay for the rest of the installment. So I took it on my with me to Boston, and I had only $10 in my pocket when I went to Boston. I think the grandma had a few dollars. I took them away from her until I came back the following Friday. I called her from New Haven. She said, no, I wanted to come back. Yeah, I want to let me finish up the trip. So I got to Boston. And I got there about 5 o'clock in the evening. So I had TD with me, a customer, and I went to see the buyer. And she said, it's too late. I said, all right, I'll leave the sample here and I'll come. She said, no, you're going to be my guest today. I went with her, to her apartment. I put the line there. I had dinner with her. I showed her the goods in the apartment. And she said, tomorrow we'll go to the office and we'll write the order. So in the next morning, she had spare room, I got it. And in the morning, we went to the store. She wrote the order. I said, confirm it. She confirmed it. I said, go and get me a check. I know Mr. Whitney owes you money, and he'll pay them So she guaranteed the account. He gave me a check for $1,800.
Oh, wow. $1,800.
$1,800.
So what you're basically telling me, Badie, is that the person who has nothing and is really down and out, if you use your friends and use your smarts...
Oh, he can use his... if he was honest, they know I lost my money, but I didn't owe anybody any money.
Right, right.
So they knew I was honest, and I know the business, and what I took from was insignificant.
Right.
That's why I insisted on my customers to give me cash. Money,
right.
cash.
Right.
So when I went to buy the goods,
You could pay for it.
I could pay for it and get an extra 3% extra discount.
Oh.
Instead of getting 2%, I got 5.
Yeah.
And one fellow gave me 10%.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
And I made lots of money, and I had a bank account then.
That's great, great.
And that's how it is.
Yeah. This must be getting tiring for you. Been having you talking for about half hour, I guess,
Yeah.
right now. And it does get to be a little bit tiring. Maybe we should begin to end this so we can go to Carol's wedding. But before we do that, yesterday you and I were talking about a little bit what we talked about earlier about the families. And when we provide for the families, but one of the problems is loneliness and being old. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well,
I mean, from your friends, what you see among your friends.
well, what I see among my friends is no different than what I see in my life.
Okay.
I raised a big family. They have their own families. After your grandmother died, I kept my house in Brooklyn, you know,
Right.
the way I went to Florida to live. Your Uncle Joseph had business in Florida. I used to visit him. And I used to stay with him in the winter. Sometimes I go to Miami Beach for a couple of weeks and come back to him. But I kept the house in Brooklyn until 1975.
Yeah.
In 1975, yeah, before that, you know, Aunt Isabel was living in Florida. And I used to visit her there, you know. And she wasn't able, you know, she depended on her husband for everything. And when he died,
She needed somebody.
she
who
needed
came and
help. She
took
called
care of
me up. And then I went with your grandmother, her sister. And we stayed that winter with her. I wouldn't come back to New York because your Uncle Floyd and your Uncle Franklin were taking care of
the
the
business.
business.
Right.
In the meantime, I had started, after the base business, I started the quilting business, and your uncles were taking care of it.
Yes.
When I was with Aunt Isabel, they took care of it.
Right.
I kept
That's a common practice for I guess for you to stay with your wife's sister or someone.
Well, we had the
older people
family
to stay
ties.
together. The family ties. Okay.
If we had the family ties, your grandmother had her mother and her sister only.
Yeah.
Your grandmother was the main support of the family.
Yeah.
When I married her, your grandmother was making $60 a week, and Isabel making 15.
Yeah.
So I took the woman that was making the $60, and the 15 wasn't enough. So they had to come and live with me.
Yeah.
And they came with me just a couple of weeks after I came from the honeymoon.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's how they stayed with me.
Yeah.
So when Isabel needed help, she stayed with me from 1923, the time I got married, until 1939 when she got married.
Right. Okay.
And then after she got married, she lived in Binghamton for a little while and then moved to Florida.
Right.
Her husband wanted to retire, and he lived in Florida from maybe 1945 till 1968. Her husband died in 1968 when she called me to come and help her. So I left the business in care of Floyd and Franklin. I went to Florida. We took care of her. From that time on, we lived with her in the winter time, and she came and lived with us in the summertime in New York, in Brooklyn, in 171, 79. And in 1969, your grandmother got sick in Florida, and I brought her home, and she died in a short while later. So after she died, I used to take Isabel to Florida in the winter. I wanted her to come and live in Brooklyn. She said she can't live in New York in the cold weather. She said, why don't you come and live here? You are going to retire anyway.
Yes.
I said, all right, I'll do that. So I sold the house in Brooklyn in 1975. I used to come to New York, to Brooklyn, and stay with your mother. After 75. Before 75, I used to stay in my house in 171, 79. But after I sold the house, I used to come and stay with your mother.
Right.
Sometimes, you know, I stay all summer, sometimes I stay. Sometime one year we went to Lebanon, and one year we went to Asheville, North Carolina. And one year we, after Auntie started to get sick, we stayed there a couple of years. I didn't move. But we used to come to Brooklyn and visit with your mother. And after that, you know all the story.
Yeah, things get harder after that. 'Cause, you know, it's something that I think for the younger children in the family, we see that, I guess we see a big distance. Because you're far away, it's hard to get to see you.
Yeah. So I started to come in on big occasions. Engagements,
Births.
weddings,
Uh-huh.
funerals, on no big occasions.
Big occasions, right.
And I come in for those, and I stay with your mother. There's the only place, you know, that I would feel
Comfortable.
I should, no, I feel I should be with.
Yeah.
Uncle Butch,
Is that because she's a woman and in your culture it's proper for the daughter
well,
to take care of the
she
father?
is the oldest,
She's the oldest.
and her children were spread all over. She had the room there,
Uh-huh.
and she was my oldest child.
Yeah, okay.
And we believe in the old child.
The oldest child to
Yeah.
support and take, so it would be my responsibility then when
Yeah.
mommy gets old for me to take
I
care
told
of
you
it.
that the family ties,
Uh-huh.
when somebody needs something,
Uh-huh.
they should come to the house.
Okay, and they should go to the oldest first?
That's the
Tradition. That's what I'm
oldest,
looking
and
for,
if
is that
he is
tradition.
not, to the one that's able.
Okay, if he's not, then the one who's able.
That's
Okay.
able to do it.
Okay,
The family ties covers a lot of things.
yeah.
It covers love,
Mm-hmm.
it covers miseries, it covers everything.
Yeah. Yeah, so in your values, I guess, family ties
Family
really make
ties is
everything.
very, very strong.
Uh-huh.
Honesty is very important.
Mm-hmm.
People should be honest.
Mm-hmm.
People should be hard workers.
Mm-hmm.
They should not be discouraged.
That's the hard thing, is to not be
Not
discouraged.
to be discouraged.
Mhm.
And when you on your feet, you should see that you come and see the family. If you can't come, try and get them there.
Yeah.
I keep asking every one of my grandchildren, they should come to see me.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God they are coming.
Good.
You came to see me. Floyd didn't come to Florida to see me yet.
Floyd will come to see you soon.
He will come. Carol didn't come.
Uh-huh.
Anita came.
Uh-huh.
Irene came.
Uh-huh. We should make it a point to come
Gail
see you.
came.
Uh-huh.
Jimmy came.
Uh-huh.
They all were coming, thank God.
Good, good.
And I come to see them. I came to all the weddings. I came to all the funerals,
Mhm. And all
and
the
I am
reunions,
here.
all the family reunions.
the reunions. We made reunions in Asheville,
Uh-huh.
and we all went there. We have pictures of it to show.
Uh-huh.
And now I am here in Brooklyn for Carol's party before they were there.
Now that we're
And-
saying that, is there anything
and-
you'd like to say to conclude
And
this?
all my children will be in the party today, and all your mother children will be in the party. Every one of them
Yes.
will be in the party.
That must make you feel good to see
And
the
Uncle
family.
Floyd's children all will be in the party. And Uncle Franklin, all children will be in the party. The only ones we're gonna miss is Joseph's children.
Because they're far
Because
away.
one is in Tulsa, Oklahoma, one is in Oregon,